Imagine being told that the very things being painfully stripped away from your life right now aren't punishments, but, well, the exact mechanism for your ultimate joy. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Before we unpack that idea, I want to take a quick second to offer a sincere divine blessing over you. May God deeply bless your day, the week ahead, and bring light and peace to whatever you are working on right now. We are so thrilled you're spending this time with us.
Yeah, it is genuinely a privilege to explore this material together because the text we are looking at today, it carries an incredible amount of weight.
It really does. Today, we are opening up a fascinating stack of study notes compiled from the Holman and NWA Bibles, and we are zeroing in entirely on a single, incredibly dense chapter, which is John chapter 15.
Jesus' farewell discourse.
Exactly. The mission of this deep dive is to unpack that farewell discourse to his disciples. We're going to explore the actual mechanics of spiritual growth, radical shift in how human beings and the divine relate, and ultimately what amounts to a survival guide for living in a deeply hostile world.
The context of this chapter is just everything. Jesus is hours away from his arrest and crucifixion here.
Right.
He is preparing his closest followers for an unprecedented crisis.
Yeah.
He isn't giving them light spiritual platitudes.
No, not at all.
He's giving them foundational reality. And the language he uses is packed with these agricultural and historical layers that, a first-century audience would have felt immediately in their bones.
And I want to make a promise to you, the listener. Even if you consider yourself highly biblically literate, even if you have read John 15 100 times.
Oh, there's always more.
Right. The historical context and the nuances of the original Greek hidden in these study notes, they are going to provide massive aha moments and reframe how you understand this text. We start with this famous declaration in verse 1 where Jesus says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser."
Which is the last of the 7 great I am statements in the Gospel of John.
Mm-hmm.
And we really cannot gloss over the adjective true here.
Because he doesn't just say, "I am a vine."
Exactly. He says, I am the true vine. The study notes anchor this heavily in the Old Testament.
Right.
For centuries, across texts like Isaiah chapter 5 and Psalm 80, the nation of Israel was repeatedly symbolized as God's vine.
But the prophets are almost always bringing up that vine to point out a catastrophic agricultural failure, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Israel was planted by God to bring blessing and justice to the world. But the notes point out that it consistently failed to produce good fruit.
It yielded wild, bitter grapes.
Precisely. It brought forth oppression instead of righteousness. The old system was designed to be a conduit for the divine, but the rootstock basically became diseased by rebellion.
Wow, diseased rootstock.
Yeah, and it led to divine judgment. So when Jesus stands before his disciples and says, I am the true vine, he is making a massive paradigm-shifting theological claim.
He's stepping up and declaring that he is succeeding exactly where the old system failed.
Yes, he is the authentic, uncorrupted, fruitful connection to God.
I like to think of this in terms of, well, a faulty power grid.
Okay, a power grid.
Yeah, imagine relying on an old power grid that just keeps causing blackouts. The infrastructure is fundamentally broken.
Right.
And suddenly you are plugged directly into a perfect, infinite power source. You don't try to fix the old grid,
No, you just connect to the new one.
Exactly. You draw your life from the new system.
That analogy captures the mechanics of the text perfectly. The study notes emphasize that staying plugged in, what the text calls abiding or remaining in the vine, is the only way the power from that pure source can flow into the branches.
Which brings us to the Father's role. Jesus says his Father is the vine dresser, the one managing the entire orchard.
Right. And this vine dresser does 2 very distinct things to ensure maximum production.
Okay, what are they?
First, he removes the branches that do not produce fruit.
Okay.
Second, he prunes the branches that do produce fruit so they will yield even more.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in here and ask this on behalf of anyone listening, because being pruned, getting cut sounds harsh.
It does sound painful.
It sounds almost punitive. We're talking about a loving God, but the imagery is someone coming at you with sharp shears to chop pieces of your life away.
Right.
Is God just constantly looking for our flaws to hack away at us? How do these study notes reconcile that?
It is a totally jarring image.
Yeah.
And if we read it purely through the lens of punishment, it becomes terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the study notes pull us into the original Greek here, and it completely reframes the theology of pruning. The Greek word translated as prune, or sometimes cleanse, is kathairo.
Kathairo, okay.
Right. And it shares a linguistic root with the adjective katharoi, which literally means clean.
Wait, really? So the translation of pruning is actually closer to cleansing?
Yes, exactly. In ancient viticulture, cleaning a vine meant literally washing away pests, dust, and moss that blocked the sunlight.
Oh, wow.
It also meant carefully cutting away the useless suckers, those tiny shoots that drain the vine's energy, but never actually produce grapes.
So it isn't an act of punishment at all.
Not at all. It is an act of liberation. In fact, right after talking about this pruning process, Jesus looks at his disciples and says, "You are already clean katharoi because of the word I have spoken to you."
That distinction changes everything.
It really does. The pruning isn't God angrily penalizing you for failing. It is the careful, highly intentional removal of dead weight in your life.
It's stripping away what's useless.
Exactly. It removes the distractions, the arrogance, or those toxic dependencies that are just draining your spiritual energy, all to maximize your actual fruitfulness.
But what about the branches that don't just get pruned but are completely cut off and thrown into the fire?
Right. The divine judgment aspect.
Yeah, the notes draw a really stark contrast between two specific disciples to explain the mechanics of that judgment, right?
They do. They provide a brilliant case study by contrasting Judas and Peter.
Okay, Judas and Peter.
Both of these men were attached to the physical group of disciples. To the outside observer, they both look like branches on the vine.
Right, they were in the inner circle.
Exactly. But Judas represents the fruitless branch. He was superficially attached to the organization of Jesus, but there was no genuine life-giving connection.
He wasn't drawing power from the true source.
No, he didn't abide. And ultimately, that fruitless branch was removed, symbolizing divine judgment.
And then you look at Peter. Peter experiences a catastrophic moral failure.
He denied even knowing Jesus 3 times.
He completely abandoned him. If the vine dresser's shears were simply instruments of punishment, Peter would have been severed from the vine immediately.
But he wasn't, because Peter had a genuine internal connection to the source. He possessed actual faith.
So instead of being removed, Peter was pruned.
He was subjected to kathairo. That incredibly painful experience of failure and repentance stripped away his massive arrogance.
The dead wood of his pride was cut away.
Yes, and the result. Just a few weeks later at Pentecost, that pruned branch produced massive fruit for the early church.
So the difference between being cut off and being pruned isn't about whether or not you mess up.
Not at all.
It is entirely about whether or not the sap of the true vine is actually flowing through you. Jesus drives this home with a line that really stands out to me.
Which one?
He says, "Without me, you can do nothing."
Oh, yes.
And the study notes clarify that he isn't saying you literally can't breathe or build a business or just go about your day without him.
Right. People do that all the time.
Exactly. It specifically means doing nothing of eternal value.
That's the key.
You can be frantically busy, you can be highly successful by the world's metrics, but without that deeply rooted connection, you're completely incapable of producing anything that lasts beyond this life.
All that ambition amounts to a fruitless branch if it operates independently of the divine rootstock.
Well, because of this deep, abiding connection, Jesus announces a massive shift in their relationship status.
And this is where things get historically shocking.
Right. In verse 15, he says, "I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends."
It's a total paradigm shift.
And then he adds a phrase that would have completely upended their cultural expectations. He says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you."
To understand how radical that was, we really have to look at the rabbinic traditions of the first century.
How did it normally work?
Well, a disciple almost always chose their master. If a young man wanted to study under a great rabbi, he sought that rabbi out.
He essentially auditioned to be taken on as a student.
Exactly. It was a very formal, hierarchical dynamic. You proved your worth. But Jesus flips the cultural script entirely.
He takes the initiative.
Yes, he does the choosing, and he elevates them from subordinates to intimate confidants.
It's like the ultimate VIP access. I compare it to being unexpectedly promoted from the mailroom.
Oh, the mailroom?
Yeah, where you just follow blind orders, right? You don't know why things happen.
Right, you just do what you're told.
But suddenly you become a trusted business partner. You are told all the CEO's inner strategies and secrets.
That is a brilliant way to look at it.
Jesus is bringing the disciples into the family business. He literally says, "Everything I learned from my Father, I have made known to you."
And there is a historical nugget in the study notes that reveals just how exclusive this offer of friendship really was.
Okay, what is it?
Across the entire span of the Old Testament, through centuries of history, only two individuals were ever explicitly granted the title friends of God.
Out of the entire Hebrew Bible, just two people.
Only two. Abraham and Moses.
Wow.
Abraham is called God's friend in Isaiah, and Moses is implicitly given the title in Exodus, where it says God spoke to him face to face as a man speaks to his friend.
That is the absolute pinnacle of spiritual exclusivity.
It is, and here in John 15, Jesus democratizes that incredibly intimate title, extending it to all obedient believers.
The notes do emphasize that word, obedient.
Yes, you are my friends if you do what I command.
But the notes explicitly state that the ultimate goal of this obedience isn't some heavy, sad religious burden. The goal is joy.
Complete joy.
Right. Jesus says, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. And the commentators connect this directly to Old Testament prophecies, don't they?
They do. They connect it to prophecies of eschatological joy.
Meaning end times joy, right. The unshakable reality the prophets promised when God would finally restore everything.
Yes. The prophets foresaw a future era where God's people would experience an overflowing joy that wasn't dependent on their circumstances.
And Jesus is declaring that this end times joy isn't just a future hope you have to wait around for.
Exactly. It is an active reality that begins right now, accessed exclusively through this intimate friendship with the true vine.
It sounds incredibly warm and secure inside that vine. You have divine love, you have the cleansing that brings growth, and you have this unshakable joy.
Yeah.
There's a big but here. You can't have this level of radical intimacy without it fundamentally isolating you from the system you left behind.
No, you can't.
When we hit verse 18, the tone takes a sudden, sharp turn. Jesus goes from love each other and share my joy to a really blunt warning.
If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first.
Right. Inside the vine, there's friendship. But outside the vine, the environment is entirely hostile.
The transition from internal intimacy to external hostility is jarring, but it's inevitable. The word John uses for world here is cosmos, which refers to the anti-God system of human rebellion.
And the notes dive deep into why this hatred exists.
Jesus is warning his friends that because he chose them out of the world, because they are now operating on a completely different power source, the world is going to view them as a threat.
But I want to push back on that a little bit, or just ask the obvious question.
Go for it.
If the disciples are just bearing good fruit and loving each other and experiencing joy, why does the world care? Why doesn't the world just ignore them?
It's a great question. And the study notes pull a fascinating cross-reference from 1 John chapter 3 to explain the mechanics of this hostility. It traces this specific type of worldly hatred all the way back to Cain assassinating his brother Abel.
Sibling rivalry.
But it wasn't just a standard dispute. John asks why Cain murdered Abel, and the answer is that Cain's actions were evil and his brothers were righteous.
Goodness is actually an affront to a broken system.
Exactly. When ultimate goodness shows up, it doesn't just sit peacefully alongside darkness. It actively exposes it.
See.
The world's reaction is an aggressive immune response. The hostility isn't a misunderstanding. It is a fundamental rejection of God's supreme revelation.
And the notes highlight that Jesus connects this exact dynamic to the prophetic words of David, right, in Psalms 69 and 35.
Yes, where David wrote, "They hated me without a cause."
And without a cause.
Jesus is telling his disciples, David experienced this irrational hatred. I have experienced it to the point of crucifixion, and because you are grafted into me, you will experience it too.
The hatred is completely unjustifiable, but it is guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
But that puts the disciples in an incredibly vulnerable position.
Oh, absolutely.
Jesus is giving them the survival guide. But the core reality of the evening is that he is about to leave them. How are these newly promoted friends supposed to survive this irrational hatred when their master is gone?
They survive because they are not left alone.
Okay.
To address this exact crisis, Jesus introduces one of the most vital theological concepts in the entire gospel, the Parakletos.
The Parakletos, the comforter or the spirit of truth.
Right. And the notes explain that the Greek root of Parakletos literally translates to someone who is called to one side to counsel, comfort, and exhort.
Like a defense attorney.
Exactly. In the ancient world, it carried the specific weight of a legal advocate standing by you in a hostile courtroom.
Wow, a companion in the trenches.
Yes. When the hostility of the world is actively trying to crush these believers, the Parakletos is standing right beside them.
And this introduces a really fascinating breakdown in the notes. They include what they call a Trinity table.
Even though the word Trinity isn't anywhere in the Bible?
Right. But mechanically, John 15 shows the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit working together cooperatively in real time.
It is a brilliant way to synthesize the theology. The Father is the vine dresser managing the grand operation. The Son is the vine mediating the connection. And the Spirit, the Parakletos, is sent by both the Father and the Son.
And the notes point out a specific phrase regarding what the Spirit actually does. Jesus says, "The Spirit will testify about me."
Right.
And then immediately tells the disciples, "And you also must testify." So the Holy Spirit is working silently and invisibly through the physical voices of the believers.
It is a shared, divine human mission. They are never functioning on their own strength.
Meaning, when a first-century disciple is hauled in front of an angry mob, they aren't just standing there desperately trying to remember the right arguments.
No, the Parakletos is providing the actual defense, flowing through their physical vocal cords.
It completely reframes what it means to face opposition. We have covered so much vital ground today. We move from a faulty power grid to the true vine.
We understood pruning not as punishment, but as an act of kathairo, liberating cleansing to maximize growth.
We saw the ultimate promotion from servants to friends of God.
And we learned that we are armed with the Parakletos to face a hostile world.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. Something to just chew on based on that kathairo discussion.
It's a crucial concept to take away.
If the pruning or the losses you are experiencing in your life right now are actually just the careful hands of the vine dresser making room for greater joy and eternal fruit, how does that completely change the way you view your current struggles?
That is a deeply profound question to carry with you today.
Thank you so much for joining us and diving into these incredible notes. God blesses all of you listening. We will see you next time.